The silence that stayed's trailer door creaked again, not because someone opened it, but because the wind nudged it gently, just enough to remind Anna that time was still moving. She stared at the mirror a moment longer. Her eyes weren't dry, but the storm inside her had calmed a little. Outside, Keanu was still standing where she'd left him. He hadn't walked away. He hadn't pulled out his phone. He hadn't tried to distract himself. He was just waiting. Anna stepped outside slowly, unsure if she was ready to face the day, but something in her chest told her she didn't have to do it alone now. Keanu turned his head slightly as she appeared. He didn't smile in a way that said, "Cheer up." He just gave her a nod, simple, steady, like he'd waited as long as she needed him to. "Do you want to walk?" he asked quietly. Anna nodded. They walked without a destination. Around the back of the lot, past rows of trailers, quiet corners of the set nobody cared about. Their steps were slow. Their voices were silent. But somehow, that felt better than filling the air with noise. Anna finally broke the quiet. Scared Keanu. He didn't ask of what. He just listened. "I've always had to prove I deserve to be here," she said. "That I'm not just some lucky girl who got cast for her face. That I can act. That I can carry a scene. That I matter when the camera stops rolling." Keanu stopped walking and looked at her gently. "You do matter when the camera stops. Look down at the dirt. I just feel like maybe they'll find out I'm not who they think I am." Keanu took a deep breath. "Let me tell you something." His voice was quiet but firm. "Every time I've done something big, a film, a role, anything, I hear that same voice. The one that whispers, 'What if you're not enough?' And it's louder than the crowd, louder than the director, louder than the critics." Anna's eyebrows lifted slightly. But then Keanu continued, "I remind myself, not here to be perfect. I'm here to be honest. And honesty always matters more than perfection." Anna swallowed. Hard. Her eyes filled again, but this time, not with helplessness, with something warmer. "You think people will still care about honesty?" she asked. Keanu smiled softly. "I think people are starving for it." A silence followed. Not awkward. Not heavy. Just human. They sat on a wooden bench behind a soundstage. The paint on it was peeling. A few birds chirped above them like they didn't care who was famous and who wasn't. "You've done so many films. How do you stay grounded?" Keanu leaned back against the bench. "I remember what it felt like to be invisible." She blinked. "You." He nodded. "Before any of this, before the roles, the interviews, the attention, I was just a kid in an old jacket riding the subway, wondering if anyone would notice if I disappeared." Anna stared at him, eyes wide. "Fame doesn't erase that feeling," he said. "It just puts lights around it." Anna bit her lip. Voice was soft. "Sometimes I wish someone would just see me." Keanu turned to her. "I see you." She looked away quickly, not because she was shy, but because her heart couldn't handle the weight of being seen so clearly. They sat there, for what felt like hours. She told him about the audition that broke her, about the director who told her she was too soft to play strong women, about the moment she considered quitting it all and going back to Cuba just to feel normal again. He didn't interrupt. When it was his turn, he told her about the time he messed up a major line on stage and wanted to disappear. About the times he walked home through the rain just so nobody would see him cry. About grief, about silence, about survival. In that quiet corner of Hollywood, to people the world knew as stars simply sat as humans, broken, mending, still breathing. The sun shifted. A breeze picked up. Anna leaned forward, resting her elbows on her knees. "You know what's strange?" Keanu glanced at her. "This is the most honest conversation I've had in months." Keanu nodded. "That's not strange. It's just rare." A pause on a turn toward him. "Can I ask something strange?" "Of course, why didn't you say anything in the trailer when you saw me crying?" Keanu looked at her with a calm that didn't waver. Because he didn't need words. He just needed someone who wouldn't leave. Anna stared at him, and that was the moment something shifted. Not romantic. It's not dramatic. Just something real. She smiled for the first time that Dana, the kind you fake for photos, the kind that sneaks up when your soul remembers it. Safe Keanu smiled too. They stood slowly and walked back to the set. The lights were being adjusted. Crew members rushed past. The world hadn't paused, but something in Ana had, and that pause changed everything. The mirror-never-leased hallway was quiet that morning. No footsteps, no shouting, just silence, thick like fog. Ana de Armas sat in the makeup trailer alone, hours before her call time. She stared into the mirror, but not at her face. Her eyes were locked onto something deeper, something tired, broken, the kind of tired that no sleep could fix. Behind her, the soft hum of the trailer lights buzzed. The makeup kit lay untouched. Someone had knocked earlier, asking if she needed help. But she'd said no. She didn't want help. Maybe she just didn't want anyone to see her like this. Not today. The role was big. The pressure was bigger. But that wasn't the real weight. What pressed against her chest like a stone was something nobody could see. It wasn't about the movie or the camera or the lights. It was the whisper in her mind that had grown louder lately. You're not enough. Ana had been through 100 interviews, 1,000 hours on set, red carpets, photo shoots. But none of those things ever taught her how to survive the silence of her own thoughts. And that was the silence she sat in now, staring at her own reflection. A tear fell. She didn't wipe it. Another followed, slower. She pressed her lips together, trying to stay quiet, trying not to break the dam that had held for weeks. But her chest ached, and the moment cracked her open from the inside. She thought she was alone. But outside the trailer, someone was walking slowly. He wasn't in a rush. His hands were in his coat pockets. He wore no sunglasses. Just a quiet expression, like he was listening to the world instead of speaking to it. Keanu Reeves hadn't planned to stop. He was heading to a different set entirely. But something about the trailer's window made him pause. Not because of what he saw, but because of what he sensed. He stepped up the small wooden stairs and knocked once. No reply. But he waited. Something told him not to leave inside. Ana froze. She wiped her face quickly, hoping no one would see. Then, thinking it was wardrobe or someone from production, she slowly opened the door. There he was, Keanu. He didn't say anything. He didn't need to. His eyes said it all. And he didn't ask to come in. He just stepped in gently and closed the door behind him. Not loud, not fast, just quiet enough not to startle her. Ana tried to speak, but her throat tightened. She looked down. Keanu stepped forward and stood behind her, both of them facing the mirror. He looked at her reflection, not directly at her. And she looked at his reflection too. For a long time, neither said a word. The mirror reflected more than just their faces. Reflected pain, history. Two people who had carried things they never spoke about. Two actors who were expected to always smile, always shine. But mirrors don't care about scripts. Ana finally spoke, voice trembling. I thought I could handle this. Keanu didn't nod, didn't shake his head. He just stood behind her like a shadow that didn't ask for attention but refused. To leave, everyone says I'm lucky, she whispered, but I don't feel lucky. She didn't expect a response, but when she looked in the mirror, his eyes met hers through the reflection. Calm, honest, kind. You're not alone, he said softly. It was just 3 words, but they cut through everything. The silence. The shame, the fear. Ana turned slightly toward him. I don't even know why I'm crying. Keanu shrugged gently. Maybe because you've been strong too long. Her breath caught. Her knees almost buckled. She sat on the small bench and covered her face, and still, he didn't try to fix it. He didn't offer advice. He didn't say you'll be fine. He just stood there, behind her, silent, like a tree that refuses to move no matter how strong the wind. Minutes passed. More finally, Ana looked up again. Her eyes were swollen, but her breath was slower now. Thank you, she said, voice cracked but sincere. Keanu gave the faintest smile. I'll wait outside. Take your time. And he stepped out of the trailer, closed the door softly, and stood again, hands in. His coat pockets, looking out at the sky like it had answers. Anna turned back to the mirror. This time, when she looked into it, she saw something different. The pain was still there, but now there was something beside it. Grace, not the kind people give you, it's the kind you give yourself. And that morning, it came from silence. From someone who didn't try to fix her, just someone who stayed, and that made all the difference. The day the mask cracked next morning, the makeup team was already prepping when Anna stepped onto the set. The air was filled with chatter, wires being dragged across concrete and grips shouting cues. But inside, Anna felt still different. From yesterday, not perfect, not fully okay. But lighter Keanu was already there, dressed for his first scene, sitting quietly near a prop table with a coffee in his hands, not on his phone, not reading a script. Just observing as she passed him, he looked up and nodded. She smiled faintly. It's a kind that meant thank you for not disappearing. They were shooting an intense emotional scene that day, one that asked more from Anna than any role before. Her character was supposed to fall apart in front of the camera, but after everything that had happened, she wasn't sure if she could fake that kind of pain anymore, because now it wasn't acting when the director called action. She stepped into the frame, heart pounding, the camera rolled. The lights warmed her face, and in that moment, something unexpected happened. She broke, not just in character. Tears came, real this time. Not from the script, it's not from a cue. They came because her chest still carried yesterday's storm. Pretending wasn't strong enough to hold it back. The room fell silent. Even after the director shouted, "Cut," Anna kept crying. She turned away from the lens, ashamed, wiping her eyes furiously. "I'm sorry," she whispered. "I need a minute." The crew shuffled, unsure what to do. Some stared, some looked away. Keanu stood up. He didn't rush to her. He didn't ask questions. He walked over slowly and handed her a clean towel someone had left on a chair. His touch was gentle, without pity. "You were incredible," he said softly. Anna shook her head. "I lost it." Keanu lowered his voice even more. "Maybe you found it." She blinked, confused. "Sometimes the realest performances happen when we stop performing," he said. Anna took a shaky breath. "They're going to think I'm unprofessional." Keanu smiled gently. "Then maybe we need more unprofessional. People who feel things deeply." She looked at him like he was from another planet. "You know," he continued, "people spend their whole lives trying to hide their pain. But when you let yours be seen just now, everyone in that room felt something." Anna glanced at the camera crew. They weren't judging. They were still watching her. But this time, with something else in their eyes, respect. Real respect. Not as the kind written in magazines, not the kind posted on social media, the kind earned through truth. After a short break, she returned to set. This time, when the camera rolled, she didn't hide. She let herself be raw. And when it ended, the room was still again, not because of awkwardness, but because of reverence. The director stood up slowly. That ... That was art," he said, voice cracking. Anna turned away. Breath caught in her throat. Behind her, Keanu gave her a quiet nod. As the crew began resetting, Anna sat down near the edge of the set. Keanu sat beside her. Neither said much, but then, from behind a pile of equipment, a young crew member approached a sound technician. "Barely 20-2? She hesitated, then said softly, "Miss Anna, I just wanted to say thank you. I've been struggling with stuff too, watching you, ... just now. It made me feel less alone." Anna froze. Then something in her heart opened wider. She stood and hugged the girl gently. "You're not alone," she whispered. The words echoed what Keanu had said to her the day before. When the girl left, Keanu looked at Anna with quiet pride. "You passed it on," he said. Anna nodded slowly. "I think I needed to cry for more than just me." "You did," Keanu replied. And that night, when she got home and looked in the mirror again, something was different. The sadness hadn't vanished. But now it had shape. Now it had purpose. And behind that pain was power. The voice behind the silence days that followed felt lighter, but not because the pain had vanished. it was still there. Only now, Anna wasn't carrying it alone. Keanu had become a quiet presence in her routine. Not clingy, not constant. Just there when it mattered. He never asked how she was feeling unless his eyes already knew the answer. And even then, he never pressed. They didn't talk every minute. In fact, sometimes they sat side by side between takes without saying a word. But in that silence there was peace. A rare kind of trust that only grows in the stillness between two people who understand what it means to hurt and keep going anyway. On a Wednesday afternoon, Anna found herself in her trailer again, staring at a new email on her phone. Her agent had forwarded an invitation. A massive international talk show wanted her. Live interview, millions of viewers. Main segment normally. This would be a victory, but her heart dropped. Not because of fear of talking, but because she knew what they'd ask. They'd want to talk about the tears, about the scene, about what made her break, and how she recovered. They'd want her to package her pain in a neat story, something digestible and inspiring. But what if she wasn't ready to do that? What if it was still too raw? She closed the phone and leaned forward, resting her head in her hands. A soft knock tapped at the trailer door. "It's me," Keanu's voice said. Anna opened the door, eyes wide. "How do you always know?" He gave a small shrug. "Just felt it." She stepped aside to let him in, then held out the phone with the email still open. "They want me to go on that show." Keanu read the screen, then looked at her gently. "Do you want to?" Anna sat down slowly. "I don't know. Part of me wants to share something real, but another part, scared they'll twist it, turn it into something for views." He nodded. "That's a real fear. You've done interviews," she said. "What do you know when to speak? And when to stay silent?" Keanu sat across from her, elbows on his knees. "I ask myself one question. Is this moment about truth or is it about applause?" Anna blinked. "If it's about truth," he said, "then even if it shakes me, I know it's worth saying. But if it's just about pleasing the audience, I stay quiet." Anna looked at the screen again. "I don't want to be another headline." She whispered, "Then don't be." Keanu replied softly, "Be a voice instead. What if they interrupt me? Twist my words." Keanu gave a small smile. "Then speak so simply that your words can't be twisted." She looked at him with wide eyes. He continued, voice steady. "Say what's true, not what's dramatic. Tell them about the pressure, the expectations, the silence behind the spotlight. And if your voice shakes, let it shake. It'll mean more." Anna stared at the floor. "I don't want to be seen as weak." "You won't," he said. "We'll be seen as human." A few days later, Anna walked onto the stage of that massive show. Bright lights, endless cameras, a crowd waiting for sound bites. She wore a simple dress. No flashy makeup, just her. The host leaned in, smile wide. "So Anna, that scene went viral?" "It looked like something real broke through." "Can you tell us what happened?" Anna took a breath. And for the first time, she didn't speak like she was acting. She spoke like a woman who had cried alone in a trailer, like someone who had stared at her reflection and didn't recognize herself, like someone who had been seen not saved by someone who stood in silence behind her. "Was tired," she said gently. "Not from work, but from pretending. Pretending to be okay, pretending to be enough." And in that moment, pretending stopped. The crowd was silent. The host leaned closer. "And what helped you come back from that?" Anna looked directly into the camera. "Someone who didn't try to fix me," she said. "Someone who didn't speak when I cried. Someone who just stayed." Her voice trembled. "And because of that, I remembered how to stay with myself too." A hush fell across the room, and in that pause, something rare happened. The audience didn't clap immediately. They breathed and felt. Keanu watched from his small apartment, curled up on a couch with a blanket over his knees. He didn't need to be in the spotlight. Seeing her shine with truth was enough. After the interview, she called him. "I said it," she whispered. "I know," he replied. "I didn't cry, but they did." They both laughed softly. And somewhere between the call and the silence that followed, something unspoken was born, Not romance. Not yet. But a connection so deep, it didn't need to be named. Only felt. The day the silence spoke, Heath's final day of filming, came with golden light. The kind of soft warmth that felt like a gentle farewell. It stretched across the set, turning everything just a little slower, a little quieter. Anna walked toward her trailer. Earlier than anyone else. She wanted one last moment in the place where everything had changed. She sat in front of the mirror where she had once broken. But this time she wasn't crying. This time she was writing. She opened her notebook and finished a letter she had started the night before. To the woman who thought she had to earn her worth, you never had to. You were already enough, even when you were silent, even when you were scared. Especially then. She closed the notebook and looked at her reflection, not to fix anything, not to check for flaws, just to see herself. And she smiled. Behind her, the trailer door opened softly. She didn't have to look to know who it was. Keanu, he stepped in quietly, just like the first time. But this time she didn't need to be rescued. She turned to him and smiled gently. Oh, you always knock like the wind, he chuckled softly. I try not to scare anyone. You never did, she said. They stood face to face now. Not actor to actor. Not hero to damsel. Just human to human. We're wrapped today, she said. It feels... strange. What feels strange? He asked, leaving. She answered, not the set, not the script, but... the space we made. Keanu looked around the trailer, the chair, the light, the mirror. Then don't leave it behind, he said. Take it with you. Anna tilted her head. How? Remember what it felt like to be seen? To not hide? To let someone stand behind you without fixing you? She nodded slowly. You taught me that. Keanu's voice was soft. You were ready to learn? For a long moment, neither spoke. Then Anna asked, will we still talk? When the film ends. Keanu smiled gently. Only if you want truth over applause. She laughed. A real full laugh. I want truth. Always. They walked together toward the set for the final scene. Anna's performance was effortless, not because it was easy, because it was honest. She didn't reach for emotion. It flowed. It lived in her now. When the director shouted, cut, the entire crew stood still. Then the applause began. Loud, thunderous, but Anna didn't hear it the way she used to. It didn't define her. It didn't fill a hole. It simply passed through her. She stepped aside, letting the lights cool. And when Keanu approached, she met him with quiet eyes. Can we take one last walk? She asked. They walked through the empty backlot, where it had all started. Past the bench, where they once sat in silence. Past the trailer window he had stood outside of, and when they reached the corner where the streetlights blinked to life, Anna stopped. She said, there's something I never told you. Keanu looked at her calmly. That day, when you knocked on my trailer door, I almost didn't open it. He nodded. I know. But something told me to trust you. I'm glad you did. Anna looked at him for a long moment then. With a voice steady, but full of feeling, she said, thank you for not speaking when I needed silence. Thank you for being there when I didn't know how to ask. And thank you for reminding me who I was. Keanu stepped closer, just enough so. His presence surrounded her like it always had. You never needed saving, Anna, he said. You just needed someone to remind you of your light. She didn't cry, not this time. She reached for his hand. He took it gently, and they stood there, not as stars, not as characters, but as two people who had walked through the storm and stayed behind them. The set lights dimmed one by one, but in their silence, something spoke louder than words ever could. Trust, healing, and the kind of kindness that never needs to be seen to matter. The weight of being seen the night after the interview, Anna couldn't sleep. Not because she was anxious, but because she felt different. Like something had finally landed. Something inside her had stopped running. For the first time in weeks. She wasn't afraid of silence. She wasn't afraid of being misunderstood. Because she had spoken the truth and She had survived it, and now the world saw her differently. Her phone wouldn't stop buzzing. Messages poured in, directors, actors, strangers, fans, people she hadn't heard from in years. But one message stood out. It wasn't flashy. It was a simple text from Keanu. You were real, and that's what will last. Anna stared at the words for a long time, then typed back, "Can I see you?" A few hours later, they met at a quiet coffee shop tucked in the corner of a street most tourists didn't know. The kind of place where the chairs didn't match. Music was too soft to recognize, and nobody cared who you were. They sat near the window. 2 mugs of tea between them. Anna stirred hers slowly. "They're calling me brave." Keanu raised his eyebrows slightly. "You are." "But I don't feel brave," she said. "I just told the truth." "That's the bravest thing most people never do," he said. She looked at him, really looked. "Why did you help me?" Keanu paused and answered with calm honesty, "Because I've been where you were, and no one stood behind me." Breath caught. He looked down at his hands. Fingers wrapped around the warm mug. "I know what it's like to cry where no one sees. To show up anyway. To smile when your chest is collapsing. I saw it in you that day, and I knew if I walked away, it would echo." Anna swallowed hard. "I didn't know people like you still existed." Keanu smiled, but it was the kind that came with pain. People don't need to be loud to be there. The next day on set, something shifted. Anna was different, still gentle, still graceful, but now grounded. She didn't apologize as much. She didn't try to rush through makeup or hide in her phone between scenes. She moved slower, breathed deeper, and the crew noticed. Even the director said, "You're more present." And Keanu noticed too, and not just in her performance. One afternoon, while they sat beneath a tree during lunch break, Anna turned to him and asked a question that had lingered in her heart for weeks. "What about you?" He tilted his head slightly. "What about me?" "You've given me so much," she said. "But who do you talk to when you need someone?" Keanu hesitated. It wasn't that he didn't have an answer. It was that the question itself was rare. "I write letters I never send," he said. Anna blinked. "What kind of letters?" He shrugged gently. "To people who aren't around anymore. 2 versions of myself I used to be. 2 people I loved or lost." Her heart ached. "Do you want to show me one?" He hesitated again, then slowly reached into his coat pocket and pulled out a folded piece of paper. The edges were worn. The ink slightly faded. He handed it to her. "This one's for a version of me that forgot how to trust people." Anna unfolded it carefully, read the first few lines. Her eyes watered. "This is beautiful," she whispered. "Sad, ... but beautiful." "Needed to hear it?" Keanu said, "even if he was me." She folded it again and handed it back. "Thank you for sharing that." "Thank you for asking," he replied. That night, Anna sat alone in her trailer with a pen and a blank piece of paper. She wrote her first unsent letter, not to someone else, but to herself. The girl who once thought tears were weakness. The girl who once believed silence meant no one cared. The girl who didn't know a man in a black coat would one day stand behind her quietly asking for nothing. And as she wrote, something healed. Words she never thought she'd say flowed from her pen, like rain washing away dust. And when she finished, she didn't cry. She smiled softly, gently whole.